When I was a child, we were what you called cultural Christians, where we would go to church on Christmas and Easter, and we would go to family baptisms and things like that. But we didn't really follow it or pay too much attention to it. I was taught what to believe by culture, the movies, radio, TV. Um, Way back when, showing my age, but also, what was taught in the schools and in the books and things like that. And so I didn't really understand the whole Christian thing. And when I got older, when I was young, I always got good grades. I was the good kid. I didn't really cause trouble. I tried to do my best. But when I got into high school, I began to feel like there was something dark within me, and I just wasn't as good as everybody thought. And nobody really necessarily knew that on the outside, although, looking back now, there had to be signs for anyone who was aware to look for them. But I continued to get good grades. I was a good kid. I didn't really cause too much trouble. But within me, I had this growing awareness of these dark tendencies. And they did begin to surface in high school and different things that I chose. But really, when I got to college, is really when I said, I want to see how far that goes. And so I really began to play around with that darkness within me and kind of try and plumb the depths to see just how dark that was. And what it resulted in was there was me during the day that everybody saw, the good girl. And then there was me at night that only a handful of people who were, similarly minded as myself saw. And so I began to live this kind of double life. And for me, it was a double life because I still wanted to project. I wanted to be successful. I wanted the good things in life. And I knew that that darkness that I was playing around with was not going to get me those things. And so I lived a double life. I was playing around both sides of that coin. But the reason that I'm speaking about this today is because I never understood that, like, I thought everybody was like me. Some people were more successful. They ignored the darkness. They shut it out. They cut it down. But really, everybody had it. Everybody was evil. Everybody's motives were selfish and self-centered. Even I used to say, like, I like doing nice things for people because it made me feel good. So ultimately, even the nice things I did for people were self-centered, and I knew it. But to me, we both benefited. So, even though my ultimate motives were selfish, it worked out, that's how I saw it. And then life really started going south. I really, when I became a mother, wanted to do things right. I wanted to be a good mother. And I began to struggle because these dark tendencies, the self indulgence that I had developed over the course of years, the lack of self discipline, because I allowed myself to do whatever I wanted, began to become a problem with me trying to be a good mother. I couldn't be a good mother and do that. And I couldn't develop the habits and the discipline fast enough, and maybe never. I was really struggling with that. And without going into great detail, it it pushed me towards looking for something outside of myself. And I would say I found Christianity, but that's not actually how it happened. I would say God found me. God was God was hunting me. And I got to a point where I became receptive. And the most amazing thing happened. Um, when I accepted Jesus' sacrifice on my behalf, the darkness went away. And all of a sudden, I wasn't two people. There wasn't the dark me and the light me. There was just me. It was just me. I was no longer, I'm not saying I was perfect. I'm not saying I didn't do bad things, but there wasn't a duality to my nature. There was a singularity to my nature. And I was able to be more fully myself than I had ever been in my entire life, because the person I wanted to be, I was now enabled to be that person without having to fight that darkness, because the darkness was gone. The habits were still there. I had to break the habits, but the internal darkness was gone. And so, this is what I want to say. People who have only known darkness cannot imagine what it's like to live in the light. And so, a lot of people who look at Christians and the code of ethics that they live by and say they're hypocrites, they say it because they believe that, like themselves, every single Christian has that darkness within them. And we don't. It's gone. What Christ offered us is the most beautiful offer on earth. And so, heading into Easter, I just wanted to say this because I have fully known both sides of it. I have known the darkness, and now I know the light. And the light is an offer to all of us, and we can all have it. And so if you find yourself living with this darkness and struggling and being the one person you show to everybody else, and then someone else at night and in the dark and inside, if you find yourself there, I'm telling you, listen, read, learn, look into Christianity, because Jesus saves, and that's what it means. The darkness is gone and it's replaced with the light of Christ.